The first step in making a pillow kit is to find your piece of fusible webbing. The brand name of this is Wonder Under. Also goes under the brand name of Heat and Bond by a different company. This has two sides to it. One side, it feels like a piece of paper. The other side is sort of rough. That's what's actually going to adhere to your piece of felt. So when you're going to do your tracing, you always want to have your paper side up. The pattern I'm going to do today is a horse. Horse is the most complicated of all the different patterns. If you're doing a dog or cat, basically all you have to do is lay the piece of fusible webbing over your pattern and trace everything. With the horse, because there's more pieces to it, we have to be a little bit more clever if we only have one piece of Wonder Under to work with. So first thing I'm going to do is the first side of my pattern sheet, and that is this neck piece. And I'm going to put this down in the corner right up against the edge. You always want to try to do your biggest pieces first because those are going to be the hardest to fit on your piece of paper. So I've got that lined up, and I have a red Sharpie. When I trace, I try to use a permanent marker or a felt tip pen, because if you use a ballpoint pen or a pencil, what ends up happening is you end up cutting these out and ironing them onto the felt. If you do it with a ballpoint pen or a pencil, when you iron over it, that tends to get onto your iron. And then when you go to iron something else, which usually is your project, you end up having the pen or the pencil rub off onto whatever you're ironing, and that is not any fun. The Sharpie doesn't do that, or a felt tip pen doesn't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and use a red Sharpie for this. So hopefully we're going to be able to see it pretty well. And you can see your pattern through this Wonder Under. It's kind of like a piece of tracing paper. So I'm just tracing my neck pattern. If you don't trace perfectly, it's not the end of the world. Just, trace over the line. It turns out I am not the world's neatest tracer, despite the fact that I've done this an awful lot. I don't get too worried. If I'm a little off the line, I just go back up. This stuff all gets cut off anyway, so as long as you know what line you're supposed to be cutting on, then that's fine. So there's our big neck piece all traced for you. In the horse, you've actually got two sides of this pattern sheet. So there's a bunch of things that you need to do. So I'm now going to do my other really big piece here. I'm going to do the head. So that's this piece here. And I'm going to put this down on the other side of my Wonder Under, my fusible webbing here. And again, using as much of my piece of paper as I can. So I'm going to trace this one on here now. So just tracing around just like we did on the neck. All the way around. The dotted lines that are on your pattern just divide out things that are going to go onto different colors of felt. We'll deal with that in a later video. All right, so there's my head piece. That was my second biggest piece. Now I'm going to do this center face piece here, another really big piece. Turns out that that's going to fit nicely between my neck and my head. Again, I'm going to leave a little space, but try to use as much of my piece of fusible webbing as I can. So I'm going to trace this on in here. All right. We're going to trace right around there. Get all our details in. Again, I was a little off the line here. I'm just going to go back and fix that. That's not a big deal. All right, so there's our three biggest pieces. So now we have all of these other parts that we need to trace on here. And I think you'll find that they fit pretty easily. You have 4 different pieces for your forelock and mane. And you can trace on those in this area. These here are all small little pieces. Here are your ears. I find the ears fit really good up in this area. You take the rounded ear and put it up in here. Maybe I'll trace that one here for you. So we're going to stick the ear up in there. You can probably get your other ear right down in here. And you're just going to keep tracing all of your pieces. Now, with your horse and with some of the dog patterns and the cat patterns, you're given optional white markings down in this area here. You'll see that this says optional white markings. Those you don't have to trace, but if you know you're making a certain horse or a certain dog or cat that has white on its face, I've given you some options to select from. In my case, I think I'll probably only do a star. Again, so it goes off if you have a picture of your own animal that you want to do. So, you know, choose from there. You can also modify them to be anything that you want. You know, if you want something that's not as thin as this, but not as wide as that, then just trace something that's a little bit different. I will mention that your patterns are a mirror image of what the final result will be. Typically, you don't have to worry about that. I've taken care of that for you. But if you're making patterns, you'll want to make them for something particular for your certain pet. You're going to want to make them in reverse. Or, you know, give it a couple of tries and you'll see. You'll learn by doing in that case. All right, so there is our tracing. I've already done one ahead of time, so here's all our traced out pieces. And you can actually see I have some leftover space here. So, all right, so we're gonna go on to our next step in the next video.